stop this thing.
Yeah, it's okay. So what I guess that way I can give you almost a product with memory of those things. There are two parts of the presentation. The first one is bridging the digital divide, and the second one is creating a Wi-Fi coverage. You know, it's called for universal Wi-Fi coverage. Now, and transmit massive volume of data and be able to even push your voice across that. So that's going to reduce your cost. It's going to do a whole lot of things, you know. So there's a lot of stuff coming up down the line, you know, and we're proud with what our partners are doing, and we are giving them those technology support to ensure that they are able to give value to the customers, which is very important in terms of customer getting value for what they pay for.
So, how have you been able to manage your value chain since it is wholesale deployments?
Yeah. So, you know, as in any business, well, maybe not really as in any business, in our business, relationships are quite key because we run a chain, you know, so you have the bitflux, you have the partners, then you have, of course, the channel. So, and just in any other channel spread or management, integrity is one. You see, where you lack integrity, then there's lack of trust. And once there's lack of trust, people become suspicious of one another. But we have been able to build a solid ecosystem, you know, very important, where each person knows that. And this is also important because we have metrics that we use to measure those things. We have tools that we use to measure. So it's not based on an individual perception, you know, it's based on all these metrics, data, software, and things that we have. So our value chain is very, very attractive, and there is room for more partners to join us, room for more resellers to join us, you know. So
I think the printer had
had a fault and he came to fix it. And I think
For the listeners, if you are hearing me and you are interested in doing business with Billboards, go to the website.
12,000 naira. This was in 1998. So, but that 12,000 naira was like the salary that 2 engineers were earning at the end of the month. So I was like, and he spent a day fixing it, and he made out money to him. So I was like, wow, this looks interesting. Like, you know, if you can learn anything around this, this was basically when we didn't even have computers. I mean, to buy a computer, you had to clone them, put motherboard and all that, and that was what he used to do then too for the company. And I saw that this guy was actually even doing it part-time because he used to work in Chevron. You know, so in his spare time, when he's off days, he would come, and I saw how much he was making. And to be honest, that was the motivation for me. I said, look, if I could actually get to the level of this guy, I will. So I started talking to him, and lo and behold, I went back to complete my engineering degree, you know, barely passing out, and I just made up my mind that I wanted to go into the field of information technology. And that was how the whole journey started. You know, I did a bit of certification to get into, force my way to work in some of these big companies, but I couldn't. And eventually, I just looked at it that, look, after my youth service, let me start something, you know, by myself. Worked a bit for a small company, and I saw that, you know, I wasn't going to express myself better, and that was how, you know, I started doing IT. And along the line, you know, one of the things I realized at the beginning, you know, because it was just me then. Of course, he was also existing, but we hadn't met. So I started doing training for people. I said, okay, one of the easiest ways to break into the industry is seek knowledge. When I have the knowledge, then I disseminate the knowledge. I started doing training. So it was along the line when I was doing one of the trainings that he learned from a former colleague, and he wanted to learn, you know, one aspect, which was Linux operating system. And he came in. Now, where I think I'm going to advise a lot of people is every time you want to start a company or any kind of business or any kind, make sure that there are 2 people of different backgrounds. I'm very technical, so my business skills are a bit, shaky. When he came, now one of the things he quickly realized was, okay, he'd come for training. Now, if it was any other person, he could have just come for the training and just left with the knowledge. But he saw something that, they said 1 head can do 1 thing, but 2 heads can do 10 things. So it's not linear. So when he saw it, he said, if we come together, you know, that maybe we could achieve more. But of course, you know, this was back when, this was yes, it's not so long ago. It was like 15 years ago, which was around 2003. Things have changed now. There was no internet then. It wasn't, you know, as commonplace as it was. And of course, we came together and we started, you know, joining, rubbing minds and saying, okay, how do we move? How, you know, because what brought him for the training was actually a client, a customer who wanted a service that he couldn't render, so he said he would come and learn. So he just looked at it that, instead of me going to deliver this service, since you're already an expert or you know about this thing, why don't we go together? I serve as it's a bit like when you look at any other industry, maybe the musical industry or the acting, a singer would have a producer, no matter what. So if somebody that produce a musical video will have a director, you know? So he just said, look, you go in as a singer, let me go in as the director, you know? So that was how we started, you know? So what he was probably doing then was, okay, I'll get the business, you'll execute on the business. I'll get the business, you'll execute on the business. And that was how we started, you know, out. And of course, at the beginning, when you don't know where it will lead to, it wasn't the time. That's why up until today, you said something at the beginning, there is no chief executive officer. There is no single, you know, and it is by design. 10, 20, 30 years from now, it is still going to run, you know, the way it is. It wasn't like we started, that's why I said it wasn't planned. We just started it and we saw that this was what worked. And to make it easy, we just said, look, after all expenses, because then I was just 2 of us, okay, whatever business we get after expenses and all that, we just do equal share. So going further, it won't be as if you won't be thinking, oh, one person is doing this while the other person. So it was an understanding, unwritten rule back then that we started. Nobody knew was going to get, you know, to the level where we now have 20 employees, you know, doing work for some of the biggest companies, you know, in Nigeria and Africa. So that was how we started building it.
Okay, so because that's luckily why I differ most of the time from what, yeah, because to be honest, maybe I'll just take it up from where she is. Yeah, so I, not to sound very too pompous, the reality is when we were, she's actually very right. It was all accidental. It was, of course, I was doing something differently. I was doing Cisco. That was what I was doing. Cisco is actually on internet working, infrastructure-led business. So one day, I was in the course of doing Cisco training. I've done certifications and stuff like that in Cisco, CCNA, CCNP, and all of that. And of course, personally, I was making money. You understand? And but one day I went somewhere, and somebody talked about one particular service. It's actually a proxy server. It's called Squid on Linux. While we were charging 50K, for a 5 days training, this guy came. He was a South African, and he just set up in less than 3 hours or 5 hours thereabout. He set up the Squid server, the proxy server for internet sharing that time, and the guy collected 500,000. I'm like, wow. Naturally, I don't know. I never knew I had that trait, to be honest with you.